For those of you who would love to have an optimized thyroid, what you'll have happen is you'll notice better energy, you'll wake up with more motivation, you'll have clear thinking, you'll notice that your skin looks great. The thyroid sits right on the throat, and so are you speaking your truth? And are you putting the boundaries up the way that you need to put the boundaries in place? Are you hiding things? All these things actually can manifest as thyroid issues. The other thing, when you're looking at the thyroid, yes, you want to use some of these immune modulation peptides, Thymosin Alpha-1, LL-37, but also you want to think about the health of your adrenal glands.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Cade. Welcome to the Health Accelerator Challenges. So along with me, we got Regan Archibald. Regan, how you doing?
Too awesome. Great day today. Hopefully everyone else has had an awesome day.
Yes. So yeah, really excited to be diving in on today's topic. Going to be continuing our thyroid synergy course.
That's right. Well, and by the way, has everyone got a chance to take a look at your thyroid, see if there's any issues that you're aware of? Because that was challenge number one was, hey, look at your labs and get some thyroid tests. And even if you can't get to a lab or don't have access or whatever, you can actually test your thyroid just right now. You can just kind of palpate it, find your Adam's apple, that largest spot on your neck, and see how it feels, because the thyroid is always a secondary kind of like a signal. It's your body's way of warning you when something's going wrong from a mitochondrial perspective, a cell signaling perspective. And if you can really look at ways of getting in tune with your body, there's no better way than accessing the health of your thyroid. So today we're going to talk about some very interesting things. What we've covered so far is, we talked about the thyroid, the parathyroid. We asked some of the questions, and I'm going to go through a couple of these. But, if you have unexplained weight gain, if you just don't quite have the warmth, if you're cold all the time, or if you get in hot weather and you're just like, you can't tolerate the heat, if you notice that you have changes in your hair, or if you notice that you've got like dry, flaky skin, or your nails are really brittle, or if you notice that you're constipated, or you have loose stools and you just get a lot of digestive issues. If you notice like puffiness in your neck or face, sometimes I can look at people and you can just see there's thyroid issues, especially if you have the deep creases in your neck. Those are issues you want to look at. And then we talked about some of the core testing to get done on the functional blood chemistry side. And I'd recommend, if you guys have not had your test ran in at least the last 6 months, let Cade know here. Just you can type in the chat box or email cade@acueastwest.com. And let's get your blood work done. The other fascinating test that you guys may or may not be aware of is the fact that there's different minerals, and these minerals can have a massive impact on your thyroid. So if you're not getting enough selenium, if you're not getting enough zinc, if you're not getting the magnesium, and then especially if you're not getting the right quantities of amino acids and proteins, your thyroid will suffer. And one of the things that we found is that just by doing a simple hair test, you can actually have a great understanding of how your minerals are doing. And we can also look at the ways your adrenal glands and your thyroid are functioning, even on a mineral level, even from a hair test. You can look at heavy metals. All those things interfere with the thyroid. So for those of you who would love to have an optimized thyroid, what you'll have happen is you'll notice better energy. You'll wake up with more motivation. You'll have clear thinking. You'll notice that your skin looks great. You don't retain water. So you'll notice you've got the face structure that you've grown to love and trust. I guess you could love and trust your face if it's a little swollen. So maybe that's not the right way of putting it, but you'll look feel and perform the way that you want to and at your very best. And so I think the thyroid is one of the most critical things. So today, what we're going to jump into is we're going to talk about how the gut, the immune system, how those all interact with your thyroid. And so, and then we're going to jump into some of the peptides that help remodulate the thyroid. And the primary peptide that we're going to jump into is one of my favorites called Thymosin Alpha-1. So Cade, but what did I miss as far as like kind of an overview of the thyroid? Is there anything that might be very critical to add?
That you missed. Thyroid is a critical piece, but I don't know what I'm not exactly sure what I missed.
Well, that makes two of us. So, folks, if I missed something, then you plug it in the chat box because
I think you got it.
He fell asleep and he's like, I'm not even listening to you, man. It's all good. He's talking to you guys in the chat box, so I did put him on the spot. But all right, let's talk thymosin alpha-1 because this peptide, if you look at all the cool peptides out there, this one was one that was FDA approved years ago, and then they put it on kind of the questionable or category 2 status, and then recently they reversed their decision to have it on as a category 2. And so this peptide has been phenomenal because what it does is it modulates the immune system. And so if you think of modulation, like you just think of it's like where you reconfigure something. So Cade, if you could look up like the Google dictionary definition of modulation, that would be super helpful. And because I want this to be very actionable, I don't want to get like so crazy and nuanced into the pathways that you guys are like exhausted by the end of the session today. I'd love it if you guys just started to see that your thyroid is related to everything else, and it's the thyroid. I look at the thyroid gland as this beautiful like protector. And so it's like the armor, you know, if you think of how important your throat is just from a symbolic perspective, you know, if you get your cutthroat, or if you are cutthroat, then you got a thyroid issue. Or if you get your throat cut, you got a thyroid issue. So maybe one's hyper, one's hypo, but if you think about the connection between heaven and earth, and this is from more of a esoteric perspective, but in Eastern philosophy, your neck is that liaison where you communicate, where the heart and the brain are continually connected, and then but it's your thyroid that allows you to express that wisdom that comes from staying connected to your heart and brain. So let's look at modulation. But Cade, did you find the definition there?
The definition that came up for me, general usage. There's a few different things that it popped up, but in a broader sense can refer to any deliberate adjustment or control of something to achieve a specific effect.
Great. So if you think of that deliberate control or what to achieve a specific effect?
A deliberate adjustment.
Deliberate adjustment. So there you go. So a modulation, if you think of thymosin alpha-1, which is one of the most amazing peptides you'll find, is not only can it make you younger because it that immunosenescence is one of the big risks that we have as we age. But the other thing it does is when you can start creating this balance between your TH1, TH2, TH17, between like your innate and adaptive immune response, then your body, it's like you can communicate with the outside world with so much ease. How many of you have ever gotten sick on a plane ride or when you've traveled, or maybe you've gotten sick being around family? It's holidays. So how many of you get sick around family? And that's why I sequester myself every holiday. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm on a silent meditation for 3 weeks. No, I don't do that, but some of you may want to do that, right? And but if you think about it, when you've modulated your immune system, you have this adaptive ability to handle all the things that come into your body from the external world. And that may sound like, oh, what's the big deal, Regan? But that's actually one of the most important aspects of having vitality, is being able to interact with the outside world, but to weave through the things that aren't going to be helpful and to take in the things that are. And it's easier said than done. And this is one of the most interesting things when you start looking at the spiritual aspects of your physiology. The thyroid sits right on the throat. And so are you speaking your truth? And are you putting the boundaries up the way that you need to put the boundaries in place? Are you expressing your heart, expressing your soul? Are you hiding things? All these things actually can manifest as thyroid issues. And so if you think of the immunomodulation, one of the things that the researchers did is they looked at patients who had autoimmunity. And in one study, they looked at the way that the immunosuppressive drugs were working. And then they found that if they used Thymosin Alpha-1, this would not only create more selectivity as far as the immune modulation goes, but these patients had better energy. They seemed to recover better. And then what another piece of the research they did is they said, well, what if we combine Thymosin Alpha-1 with the vaccines? And so, this was 25 years ago. So 2000, I can't remember the earliest study I've seen on it, but I believe it was in the 90s. I know this peptide was discovered at the Albert Einstein School of Medicine, like back in the 80s, like I think it was the late 80s. So I know there was research before that, but what they found is that if you stack or combine Thymosin Alpha-1 with a vaccine, then you're going to have better immune recognition of that particular pathogen. So pretty fascinating, if you ask me. And then, what you'll see in the treatment plan is you'll see this immune system that's impaired. You'll start to see it restore itself to homeostasis. You'll see when there's an overactive response, like you're in a thyroid storm, for example, and your body just won't calm down. That's where Thymosin Alpha-1 is really phenomenal at just lowering that excitatory response and allows your body to start to recover. You'll notice that there's greater levels of white blood cells. This is one of the ways that many of you have seen. You come in and your white blood cell total percentage is like under 4%. And I say, that's a big problem. And you say, oh, what's wrong with that? Well, that means you've defunded your police and department. And so Thymosin Alpha-1 is the way that you can refund your police, unless you just don't like police officers, but I love them. They're great. But wait, Cade, what are your thoughts on that analogy? Did we just lose some of our friends?
I don't think we lost anyone. That's a beautiful analogy. It's like it's helping modulate, adjust, or authoritate the immune system.
Is authoritate even a word? I mean, did you
enforce? Yeah, enforce the laws of biology.
I still like authoritate. You should have a T-shirt. Authoritate.
Yep, that's a new word I just made up today. You heard it first.
Right here, folks. So Thymosin Alpha-1 is 28 different amino acids. If for those of you who are watching the video, you can see that it works with the inflammatory alterations in the body. It works on the cellular level on these toll-like receptor cells, and the beautiful thing it does is it increases natural killer cell activities. It increases the expression of Th1 type cytokines. It increases T cells. It reduces apoptosis of immune cells. So that means you've got these, once again, it's not just like putting more white blood cells, but the ones that you've got are smarter. They're more efficient. They take fewer breaks. If we're talking, law enforcement, they don't get sick. They're very, very healthy. One of the things that you'll see is if you can regulate your immune system with Thymosin Alpha-1 or in other ways, when it comes to the thyroid, one of the biggest misdiagnoses that we've seen over the years, over 2.5 decades since I've been in this world, a lot of patients get put on antidepressants. And what we learn is that it actually is a thyroid issue. And the thyroid issue is the result of having this Th1 and Th2 issue where one of these parts of the immune system is overexpressed. And it's what's that word you created, Cade? Authoritative?
Authoritate.
Authoritate. So the Th1 authoritates on the Th2, and then there's some depression, and you can also see insulin resistance, chronic fatigue, infections. Like you'll see EBV. So for those of you who have ran your Epstein-Barr viral loads, you'll see those are really high. You'll also see more food allergies because your immune system, once again, it's like when you think of the expression from the way that you behave and the way that you show up in the world. If you have a hard time putting up boundaries, speaking your truth, communicating clearly, then you'll start to see that there's this authoritating going on. And did I use it properly, Cade? Authoritate?
You're crushing it.
Thank you.
Doing great.
I didn't know I'd be so much pressure tonight. Jeez. But yeah, you don't want other people to authoritate on you, nor do you want to authoritate on other people. And that's where, you've got a really healthy immune system and a healthy thyroid expression based on that. So Thymosin Alpha-1, how many of you have tried it, loved it? I think this is probably one of the best immune peptides and arguably one of the best peptides for the thyroid, especially because 90% at least thyroid issues that we have diagnosed, we've also found that there's immune issues behind it. Cade, what's been your experience with thymosin?
I love Thymosin Alpha-1, and I like the term I like that I've heard you use before is immune intelligence, but just love how it's super adaptive and helps get over stuff if you're dealing, like I actually you could probably tell a little bit of a hoarse voice, but I came down with something Sunday night. It's just kind of weird, and it's like I feel like I killed it with Thymosin Alpha-1, just getting that pretty quick, and feel great. Still got a little bit of a lost voice, but haven't dealt with a lot of the symptoms that like all of it just kind of went through the family and other people and feeling good. So I actually can testify that this thing, the Thymosin Alpha-1, rocks when you get exposed to different sicknesses or illnesses. It's also great if you have like different autoimmune flare-ups, or you just need some of that modulation with your immune system, because it can work great at just like taming down the immune system as well as kind of fighting off bad critters.
Would you go so far? I mean, you seem like a big fan. Would you go so far as you would call it the great authoritate?
Yes, the authoritative, great authoritate. To authoritate Thymosin Alpha-1 is, it's going to authoritate your immune system. Yeah. New word, new term.
And it looks like we had a question come in. Sorry guys, a question came in. What about Thymosin Alpha-1? And Thymosin Alpha-1 is the oral version made by Dr. Kent Holtorf. And if you guys go back, you'll find some episodes we've done with him. He's been very involved in the Go Wellness community as well. But he created an oral version that is it's almost the same structure, but it's got a couple different amino acid profiles. And the great thing about Thymosin Alpha-1 is in some of the white papers that we've seen is it has the same immunomodulatory functions as does Thymosin Alpha-1. So, and for those of you who don't like injections, the Thymosin Alpha-1 is a very, very powerful and potent alternative. So hope that answers the question. Same benefits, same authoritative. It's the great authoritate. All right, so LL-37, this is a phenomenal peptide, and we've mentioned it a lot, but one of the reasons why you may want to consider looking at remodulating when looking at the remodulating your immune system, there's BPC 157, which we've definitely discussed in the past, and we'll keep discussing it because it can accelerate the healing of the gut, and it helps with any kind of liver toxicity from antibiotics or vaccines or any kind of injuries that your body's had. It helps heal traumatic brain injuries. But then the other thing you want to consider is LL-37. And we found that if someone has a risk of a chronic infection, because their immune system's downregulated, and even if we don't know what that infection is, LL-37 is a cathelicidin peptide. And as you can see in this chart, it has antimicrobial properties. One of the things that it does is it heals wounds, but it also helps selectively target and induce apoptosis in cancer cells. So it helps sweep cancer cells out of the body. It breaks up biofilms. It's known as the universal killer. So, like Cathla or Catholic, it's like universal, and Sidon is like killer. And so LL-37, it's not, just because it's called the cathelicidin, it actually has regenerative properties. So it can go in and it can eradicate different, microbes. But it also helps with scar tissue, leaky gut. There's interesting studies where people have had burns and they have LL-37 that gets placed on the burns, and you'll see a dramatic turnaround in the functionality and the improvement on the patient's health who've had the burns. And LL-37, as far as leaky gut's concerned, not only does it help seal those barriers, but it can also help get rid of these LPS molecules, so lipopolysaccharides. So it's kind of a long name. And Cade, did you hear my rap song yet that I did on Ageless Future, by the way?
Heard a little bit of it. Did you include some lipopolysaccharides in there? Sounds like if you can say that 5 times fast, that's a killer rap.
The lipopolysaccharide. Yeah. So it's on Rick D's and the weekly top 40 is where my rap song landed. I think I was like number 22. So I want you guys.
It's top Billboard charts.
It was almost there. But my wife was like, that's horrible. Don't ever do that again. So, yeah, noted. But I did make a rap song in case you guys are wondering. But LL-37, there's a rap artist, you guys may have heard of him, LL Cool J. Thing about LL Cool J and the way that this peptide relates is LL Cool J he was a bit of a bridge because, he is a hip hop artist, but he also had a little bit of R&B. And so he was able to kind of merge some of the two worlds and where cultures collided. And that's what LL-37 does, because it's not like a typical antibiotic where you see an antibiotic just like wipe out everything and doesn't care. LL-37 is very selective to the things that are not beneficial to the body. And so it's just like this hyper intelligent peptide structure. It's 37 amino acids, and they're folded in a very particular way where it can sense exactly what that pathogen is. And then LL-37 can also, it's guided by your interleukins. So like interleukin 8, that's one of the cytokines that is released in the epithelium, for example, when there's stress or inflammation. And then it can go in there and it just can break through that biofilm and allow your body to start to heal. We've seen LL-37, you can actually put it in a nebulizer for patients who've had issues where they've had respiratory infections or COPD or emphysema, or even patients who've been exposed to different types of endotoxins from mold. LL-37 can be phenomenal. So if someone's in kind of an acute phase of having a respiratory infection like pneumonia, something like that, LL-37 is very powerful. And that's why when you go to travel or if you go into family functions and you want to have a nice little upgrade for your immune system, you get the Thymosin Alpha-1, LL-37, and we have a pharmacy that stacks those together. And you're going to have this beautiful pleiotropic effect of regulating the immune response. You can circumvent any kind of like chronic issues from coming up, but you also have this beautiful kind of acute awareness with LL-37 that if anything is there, that it just wipes it out and you don't even know it's done its job. So that's LL-37. Cade, pretty phenomenal peptide if you ask me. Probably this is a breakthrough peptide.
Yeah, I think you combine LL-37 with Thymosin Alpha-1 and you have like optimal immune intelligence. Really cool combo, 1-2 punch, or you can do them individually as well and do amazing things.
Yep. Or you can just like get really sick and not feel good for the rest of your life. I mean, that's always
yeah, you can just be more sick.
All right. So the other thing, when you're looking at the thyroid, yes, you want to use some of these immune modulation peptides, Thymosin Alpha-1, LL-37, but also you want to think about the health of your adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are so powerful because they regulate the response, what we call the HPA axis, but they regulate this hypothalamic pituitary and adrenal response. And we find that is dysregulated in 95% of the clients that we work with. And that's why in your Accelerate Wellness program, one of the first things we do over the first 60 days is we reset this HPA axis. And then what I've found is that you pretty much have to do that about every 6 months because most of you on this, actually, I should just say all of you are overachievers. You want to do big things in life. Several of you, you just start another business like it's a hobby, but then you build it massively. One of our clients, Cade, I met with yesterday, and his business has doubled year after year for about 10 years, and it's just he's doing amazing. But it's a fine balance between him burning himself out to get to that next level. Because every year gets more and more complex. So this last year, he had to jump in for the last 5 months. And so he's just coming up for air. And then he's like, peptides, please. And so we're dumping peptides. Here you go, swallow them, inject your face. Or we wouldn't inject his face, but just giving you an image. And but you don't have to do it that way. If you keep your adrenal glands regulated, and if you reset it about every 6 months, you'll notice you just get better and better and more resilient every year. And that's, the client I just met with before talking to you guys, so who I was on with, Cade. He's very in tune with his body. He teaches these big workshops that are phenomenal. And the coolest thing he said is he's like, yeah, it's my resiliency and immune function, everything is at least 70% better than it was a year ago. And a year ago, he wasn't sure, actually 2 years ago when we started working together, he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to keep doing what he was doing in his profession. And he's helping thousands of people. So it was really awesome to hear that. And this year, we're just going to get that 30% gap closed. But it starts with this, the HPA axis. So one of the ways you can reset this, and you can do it in a very predictable way, is what we call plasma renewal. And plasma renewal it's a treatment that we've been utilizing only this year, and it's only found here at East West Health. And the reason why we've utilized it is because if you think of the plasma in our blood, the older we get, the harder it is for us to have this exchange where we get rid of toxins from our blood. And not only does your blood carry nutrients, but it also carries waste, and that waste tends to build up over time. And so if you don't have a good repository system, maybe your lymphatic systems get plugged up, maybe you have poor bowel movements, it could be because your thyroid gland, you have this autoimmune response. and your body just has this inability to exchange the waste. And that's, one of the aspects of aging is after about the age of 35, the universe just doesn't seem to care anymore. We get all wrinkled, gravity starts to set in, and cord plasma is a way that you can not only clean out the blood, but you also get this byproduct of having better energy. You have this you turn on your body's dormant stem cells, because if you think of the blood, every tissue, every organ, every cell in your body depends on vascularity, having blood supply. And with doing the cord blood or the plasma renewal, typically what we'll see is you'll start to notice improvement in your growth factors. You'll notice a diminishing of your inflammatory cytokines. You'll also notice a reparative function in your cells. And then, like I mentioned, the stem cell activity. And one of the studies we found, they took patients, the average age, I believe was 76. And they wanted to see if the plasma renewal from umbilical cord plasma or umbilical cord blood, where they separate the plasma out, they did 1 cc of concentrated plasma, and they just injected it subcutaneously for 10 weeks. And what they found is in all 82 biomarkers that they improved biomarkers that relate to aging. In fact, the Grimm age, or the methylation age on the DNA, they actually became younger, and the participants on average were able to shave off 2 months of every year of life. So they aged every 14 months was 1 year. So they got an extra 2 months on every year just by doing the subcutaneous injection. So we looked at that, and I said, well, I think that's a much safer route than doing the whole plasmapheresis. So that plasma renewal every 6 months is one of the best ways you can reset your HPA axis. You may add in thymosin beta-4, BPC, thymosin alpha-1, epitalin, LL-37. All those things are so powerful. You'll also want to do an anti-inflammatory diet. Gluten, dairy, sugar, those can be issues, and it's only certain types of dairy. Dairy is some of the most nutrient-dense, beneficial food on the planet, as long as it's from goats. Because, Cade, you've seen goats in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you remember?
I'm trying to remember. I remember goats being around, but I just, yeah.
So, when you land at the Big Island and you see it's all volcanic rock. It's like,
yeah.
When I first went there, I was like, I'm going to live here for 4 years, and I've never been here. And I was like, wow, I thought it was like tropical, but it looked like very odd, different than what I expected. But then you look, and there's these kiawe trees. So in Hawaii, on the Big Island, you have these like thorns in these kiawe trees. And that is some of the hardest wood ever. Like, you hit it with an axe, and it's like, no, you don't, buddy. But then you see goats, and they're climbing in the trees. And if you look it up online, Cade, you'll believe me. But goats will climb in trees, and they just they don't care about the thorns. And then they're out there on on these like rock. I don't know what they're eating, but goats are powerful. And so that's why I say, get dairy from goats. Sheep's good. And then the A2 dairy from cows, especially the fermented dairy is going to be amazing for you. But watch your immune system, because if you do have high antibodies, you may have to eliminate all dairy. But generally speaking, it's great for you. Get rid of the sugar, the processed foods. The things that are hardest on your body are the PUFAs, the polyunsaturated fatty acids from like the seed oils, canola oil, the Hateful Eight. Have we released that podcast that I did with Kate Shanahan? I haven't seen that yet, but we need to. That one's going to be fun, you guys.
I will confirm, but I want to say it's been maybe it's on the docket to be published.
Yeah, check with the engineering
very soon.
Be a good one. Then add in some bone broth, collagen. That will help you guys. And then glutathione, zinc, selenium, vitamin D. Make sure you get some spore-based probiotics like the ProBiospore. These are all great things you can do to help heal your thyroid. So we covered a lot of ground today, and I'm going to we'll go back and let's see if there's any questions that anyone has on the thyroid. But Cade, any big takeaways from you?
I'm pretty excited to start using the word and the term authoritate. I think that's a new medical term that we discovered and created here on the Unreasonable Health podcast. I think, immune intelligence is so critical, especially at this time of year. Really cool to talk about that. A lot of seasonal sickness coming around, but then at a bigger perspective, you have, your thyroid. I was talking to someone about this last night, but you think about all the blood flow that goes through your thyroid. And if you have anything like leaky gut, anything in your blood that's, potentially can create inflammation or activate your immune system, going to get trapped there. And so that's why, we see so much autoimmunity as the cause of thyroid problems. And so if you can use these peptides to really seal up the digestive system, create better immune intelligence, it's just incredible stuff.
Okay, yeah, well said, Mr. Authoritate. And Ashley said, if only goats didn't have to smell so bad. There's certain
They're
things,
animals.
Yeah, it's like when you can survive off eating rocks. I mean, they don't care how they actually don't care what we think about the way they smell, to be honest with you, Ashley. They couldn't.
And that's what makes them so cool. They're goats. They're greatest of all time.
Your feelings are not their responsibility. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll appreciate you guys. And man, we have so many exciting things coming up for the new year. And so we'll be doing some pretty heavy duty announcements, but I'm telling you what, next week is Christmas. And so you
won't
guys
be here next week.
Cade's going to do it on his own. There's no holidays, but hope you guys have just phenomenal Christmas and Hanukkah and whatever you'd love to celebrate. And I hope it's just like the best ever. And then next year, what we're going to be releasing is our new, we've got our VIP days and we've already started that. So get your advanced diagnostics and, we're working with Health Code. We're going deeper on the diagnostic side. The other thing is we're going to be having different types of retreats. So for those of you who love our retreats, we're going to keep doing those. But then the first one you're going to see is our retreat that is all on focus development and cognitive activation. So if you want to do a deep diagnostic on the brain, we're going to do, we've got partnership with a brain MRI. So we can see if, with Cade, we're going to look to see if his brain is authoritating. And then,
is there anything in there?
Yeah, well, that's, yeah, they're going to fake it, but then we're going to show you guys how to really maximize we have some assessments that you're going to do, like Colby and Print, and then we're going to put it all together, and it's going to be a phenomenal workshop. So for those of you who are interested in just going deeper, we're going to take you through the whole system next year. So look for emails from us. We'll be launching that, and it's going to be a phenomenal experience for everybody. So, all right, you guys, we will see you in a couple of weeks, and have an awesome Christmas and great holidays. And thanks, Dean. Thanks, you all.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We'll see you guys all next year. All right.
Bye-bye.